Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Elise and I am from La Trobe University and I'll be hosting today's Health Alumni panel for you all. So thank you so much for coming, and if anyone does have any questions as we're going throughout the session today, feel free to pop those questions in either the Q&A or the chat down the bottom and we'll get to those as we're going. So I thought I would give everyone a really quick introduction to start off with. So we are lucky enough today to have Fiona Ellery with us, who is an occupational therapist and a clinical coordinator at Raphael Services. We have Megan Locke, who is an exercise physiologist at Fixed Movement Performance. We have Anthony Menakis, who is a Master of Health Science graduate and specialised in vocational rehab counselling, and who is currently working in Transition for Employment Regional Lead role at the Australian Department of Defence. We also have Stephanie Georgowski, who is an associate lecturer with us at La Trobe University in Health Information Management and also a graduate of Health Information Management at La Trobe as well. And last but not least, we have Kirk Luby, who is an accredited exercise physiologist at St John of God. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And we really appreciate having some wonderful alumni with us today to talk to us about their journey. So to start off with, I thought it'd be a great opportunity for everyone to have a chance to introduce themselves and talk to us a little bit more about what you all studied and a little bit about your career. So if you'd like to start off, Steph, I'd love for you to go first.
Yeah, hi, I'm Steph, everyone. And as Elise kindly mentioned before, I am actually an associate lecturer at La Trobe, so I'm currently teaching and have been for the past 2 years. So specifically within the discipline of health information management, which falls within the Department of Public Health. So for a lot of you, you might be looking for a career in health science or public health. So perhaps health information management is something that you haven't thought about before. As Elise mentioned, I did graduate from the undergraduate degree a couple of years ago now. And you're probably wondering, what the hell is health information management, to be, a bit brass, but really health information management is the business side of medicine with a clinical flavour. So we are specialist health professionals who are the link, or we like to say the interface between your clinicians, your health IT people, your finance and your senior management, like your CEOs. And we understand and speak the language of, clinical medicine, of IT. We deal with management and health business issues. So we play a really important role behind the scenes. So that was really something that appealed to me, because I didn't want to be a nurse or a physio or a patient where I had to treat patients or anything like that. I didn't want to see any blood. I really wanted to work in, the health industry, but really take behind the scenes role. So health information managers were really key to ensuring that, the clinicians, the hospital and health services have the right information to make important health decisions, not only at the local level, but at a national level as well. So a little bit about my career. As I mentioned, so I graduated from the undergraduate degree. So we have a 4-year double degree on offer. So you get a health information management degree plus a health science degree. I elected to do a 5th year, which was an honours year, where I got to undertake a research project. So I did that in conjunction with the Murdoch Research Institute. So that was really exciting and something, different. And then I secured my first job whilst undertaking my honours year, where I was working part-time as a health information manager for Northwestern Mental Health. And then that led into the role of becoming an academic, which I'm sure I'll get asked about a bit later on. So I might give someone else a chance to speak now. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steph. Megan, would you like to go next?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan. I'm an exercise physiologist at a private clinic. So I graduated from the 4-year exercise physiology course last year. So this is my first year out as a new graduate. I started working pretty much straight away in January. I didn't have much of a break. I went straight into it. So I've actually got 2 different jobs part-time at the moment, both at private clinics in the regional towns, as I'm from a regional town. And originally wanted to get into hospital work, but secured private work, which was quite fortunate before COVID started to have a job. And I guess that's a quick summary. I'll answer any more questions later on.
Great, thank you so much, Megan. Fiona, would you like to go next? Fiona, you're on mute.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Fiona.
Oh, Fiona, you might have accidentally hit your mute button again.
Yes, it did go back on. Third time lucky. I'll try.
We've got you, I think.
Hands free. I'll put my hands where you can see them. My name is Fiona. I studied occupational therapy at La Trobe Bendigo I finished in 2015. I came in as what they called a GEM student, which is a graduate entry. I had 2 degrees prior to doing OT, so I did the 2 years instead of the 4. I am currently working as a clinical coordinator for an agency called Raphael Services, which is a perinatal mental health service. So we help parents, mums and dads who are experiencing postnatal depression, anxiety, pregnancy loss, things like that. So I basically got that job from my placement, because that was my last placement and that was an area that I like to look into. Occupational therapy is quite a broad career. So you might find occupational therapists in hospitals, in early intervention services. But basically what an occupational therapist does is whatever setting they work in is trying to get that person back to the occupations they once enjoyed. So that might be as whatever their career is, it might be a family member. In my case, it's for as being a parent. So yeah, mental health is an issue for them in their pregnancy or postpartum. So we're there to try and get them back into their occupations as a parent. Yeah, I think that's a good introduction. I'll let somebody else have a go. Put myself back on mute.
Thank you so much for that, Fiona. Anthony, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name's Anthony, and I studied the Bachelor and Masters of Health Science with doing the rehab counselling stream. I think I was part of the first cohort that actually did that stream through La Trobe. And like Fiona said, rehab counselling is a very broad, general kind of area. The roles that I ended up in, I was up in Canberra for the last 4.5 years working at the Australian Institute of Sport, working with athletes who are transitioning from sport. So they're either retiring or being forced to retire or choosing to leave for whatever reason from sport, and helping them find work or figure out the kind of their vocational path after being a full-time athlete. So that's Olympians and Paralympians. Also did some work with some of the AFL clubs as well. Now I'm working for the Australian Department of Defence. Same sort of job, but with military veterans who are medically transitioning. So if someone has, an injury where they can't serve anymore, or, a mental health disorder where it's best not for them to continue with the ADF, then they'll go into the transition program, and I work in that transition program. So it's about not only like finding them work or helping them find work, but figuring out what that next stage is, and their next kind of vocational pursuit, and what their identity is post sport, post defense, and all that kind of stuff. So it is very broad. Rehab counselling itself is not probably something that I did in that sense in terms of the job, but there are other jobs that are more focused on rehab counselling, and that's a lot like what Fiona does in terms of occupational therapy, but less of a hands-on, more of a kind of liaison kind of management approach to it, with a bit of social work and counselling thrown in there. So I know that's all over the place, but I'm sure I'll be able to answer any kind of questions that come our way. So thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. No, trust me, you did a great job of explaining that. Thank you. And lucky last, Kirk.
Hi, yeah, my name's Kirk. So I'm an exercise physiologist and study the same degree as Megan, who spoke at the start. So I started in 2014, and it was and still is a double degree. So an undergraduate of exercise science, which focuses more on exercise prescription for the healthy population or the athletic population, is sort of a stream you can go down. And continued on to the fourth year, which was a master's in clinical exercise prescription. So with the purpose of working with people with chronic illness and injury rather than the sort of healthy adult population. So at the moment, I work at St John of God in the hospital setting. So as Fiona said, I work with some occupational therapists and a range of other allied health professionals as well in a team setting, and we essentially all work together to deliver rehab services to patients that have been in car accidents or had elective surgeries or might have developed a disease like diabetes or Parkinson's or something like that. And my specialty as an exercise physiologist is essentially delivering exercises as a treatment to improve either their condition or their function as a person just day to day. So yeah, that's a bit of a summary on that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So as sure as all of you here can see, we have a wide variety of different health professionals here today, and there's even a larger variety that we couldn't even have on today. So I'm sure for a lot of you it might be a bit overwhelming thinking about what area of health would be right for you or what is going to be best for you to study. So I thought it'd be great for each of the panelists to touch on their reasons for choosing that particular degree and course area that they studied in. Anthony, maybe you can go first this time.
Sure. I'm probably not the best person to ask in terms of why I chose this course. I did the common first year in health sciences with some friends of mine, and we got to the end of the common first year, and we kind of weren't sure what path we wanted to take. There was a kind of path that would lead you down more like the physio side of things, or then there was a social work side. And as I said, I think we were the first cohort to get into the rehab counselling stream. And the reason we chose that one was partially because we all wanted to still be together and hang out. But also it had, a lot of kind of psychology-based subjects, counselling, stuff that I was attracted to and like always thought I'd, want to follow that path down. I thought maybe I'd be a sports psychologist or something like that after following that, and had some sports subjects as well. And I was like, this would be interesting, just give it a try. And then ended up really loving it. Was an amazing kind of group to go through with. Felt like being kind of back at school because we had such a small group and all the classes, there was the same people, over and over again, which was awesome. And we all developed really close bonds. And so I suppose in terms of the actual question, I didn't have a specific path, but it did work out the way it was meant to for me. But so I hope that's okay, Elise.
That is more than fine. I think it's always good to hear multiple different reasons as to how you got into a particular area. So that's more than fine. Kirk, did you want to touch on your reasons for choosing exercise science and physiology?
Yeah, for sure. So coming out of high school, I knew I was really interested in sport and health and all that stuff sort of generally, but wasn't too sure exactly what I wanted to be when I finished uni. But I applied and got into the exercise physiology program and essentially started studying it and learnt more about it as I spent time studying it, but found that it was something that was really consistent with my interests around sport, exercise and health in general. So I guess I probably didn't know everything about it when I did enroll in it and started, but obviously learnt more about that as I studied it. But essentially that was my reason for getting into it, and it sort of nurtured that interest. The more I studied it, the more I got more interested and more involved in healthcare and a bit of a passion. So it was that general vague sort of interest in the area at the time that got me interested in it or got me started in it. And then I guess part of it was fortune, but it went down that track. It's something that I really enjoyed. But I guess as Anthony was saying, that we also did a common first year. So I guess if you're finding it's not something you're interested in, you've got those options to offshoot in different directions, as he sort of said. Because I think sometimes you go into uni not exactly sure if you're doing the right thing. And I think your interests, develop as you age and stuff anyway. So I think that part of it's also positive.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Megan, did you want to touch on your experience as well?
Yes, quite similar to Kirk, actually. So came from high school, absolutely loving sports and physical activity, and working out and running and things like that, but didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. So I kind of first wanted to be a physio. The ATAR was slightly out of my reach for that. So I had a look at other courses and I came across exercise science and physiology. To be honest, didn't have much of an idea what I was getting into, but I read the description. It sounded fantastic. And like Kirk said, as you develop throughout uni and you get more experiences regarding the sorts of workplaces and placements that you'll be doing, the more you start to find out what you like and what you enjoy. So you can stop at the 3rd year mark and finish with your exercise science degree if athletes is kind of the path you want to go down more, or go to the 4th year exercise physiology and work with that clinical population, which is what I did. And essentially what made me choose that over, I guess, athletes was experience. So my mum is a nurse and pretty hard job. But I saw the way that like she was able to care for clients and things like that. And I just really wanted to do more of the clinical population. So that was kind of where I kind of went with my degree.
What a caring family. Thanks for that, Megan. Fiona, I'd love for you to go next. I think your experience is maybe a little bit different coming into the masters and having a couple of degrees under your belt. So I'd love to know what made you choose to come back to do OT.
I'm a bit of a sucker for study is one reason, but yeah, I was actually working as a social worker at with children with mental health issues, and there was this one little boy, and he was quite tricky for everybody. He'd seen psychologists, psychiatrists, and his family had enlisted a private OT to do some sensory work. And when I read that report, I thought, this makes so much sense. And it made the biggest difference, more so than even medication was for this little fella. And so I thought that's what I want to do. And yeah, that's why I chose to go back and do OT and collect another HECSTET.
I love that. Thank you so much, Fiona. And Steph, and you, Steph, I'm right, you came back as a mature age student to study, was that right?
Yeah, that's right. So I came back when I was, I'm going to say like 25 or 26. So I started my first undergrad degree. I'd previously studied a TAFE course. So it was like an advanced diploma in advertising when I came out of high school, because I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. Once I finished year 12, I was kind of lost. I was working at a pharmacy and I thought, look, everyone else is going to uni, so I better do something. So got into advertising, didn't like it, kept my pharmacy job for a while, and then got into like an admin role at a medical center. So doing stuff like that. And while I was doing the course, I met a nurse there who started doing the health information management degree. And she always said to me, I think you would do really well in this course. And I was like, oh, I don't want to go back. I'm not sure. I'll see. You know, a couple of years later, I was like, okay, I'm getting to an age now where I need to, sort of settle down and, figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life, the rest of my career. So yeah, had a look obviously into it a little bit more, and, it really appealed to me because there was a lot of things that you can actually do with the HIM course. It's not just, working at a hospital. There's many settings that you can work in. You can get into research, you can do health data analytics, you can work in informatics, you can just do your standard management. So there was a lot of areas to get into. And like I alluded to earlier, I knew I wanted to work in health, but I didn't want to work with clients and patients. I'm not saying I'm not a people person. I just knew that, blood and all that wasn't for me. So that's why I chose the HIM degree. And honestly, best decision I ever made.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steph. So you're such a good advocate for the HIM degree. I'm surprised you didn't like the advertising course you did.
Yeah, no, this is way better. Better job prospects as well.
Well, I'm glad. I thought it'd be great for you guys maybe to touch on a little bit about how you found the study experience. I think you've all had really different types of backgrounds, in terms of coming back from the study as a mature age student, coming straight out of high school. And I think as well, we all go into university, I know I did as well, thinking that your course is going to be a certain way or that uni is going to be a certain way. And it feels really different when you actually start studying. So yeah, I would love for you all to touch on, I guess, how you found the transition to university and the whole study experience that you had at La Trobe, maybe, things that you thought were particularly good, how you found the class sizes, placements, anything else you would like to touch on. But we can go the other way around this time if you like. Steph, you can kick off if you like.
All right, kick off first. So yeah, well, I don't know what I expect. I guess I didn't really have that much expectations. I knew that going into it that, I would have to put in a lot of effort. And when I was in high school, I wouldn't say I was the best student. I didn't have a lot of focus, and I think that was because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I knew going into it that it would probably be hard work. But I suppose what I like is what you put in is what you get out. So I knew that going in, I had to put a lot of effort in to start with, which I did, and it paid off. But in terms of what I kind of liked about the course, you're talking about class size and placement. So I think Anthony said this about the rehab counselling. It was a very small group, and it's very similar with the HAM course. So I like to call it a boutique course. We have small numbers, which you might think, that's not great, but I see it on the other side. I think it's better because personally I've been a student now. I'm also an academic. I know all my students' names. I'm not just a number. When I was a student, I wasn't just a number. I had really good relationships with, the lecturers and the facilitators. You get a lot of advice from them. So that's one thing that was really fantastic, because networking is very, very important, guys. So you'll know this and you'll hear about it, especially if you come and do the course. Networking is very important. And because we are such a small degree / small profession, it's who you know. And so yeah, it's building those sort of relationships. Another really positive thing about the course, and one of the reasons why also I did choose it, was that you get 3 chances to have a placement basically, and you don't have to source those placements. So La Trobe and the discipline of HIM actually find all the placements for you. So I got to go on 3 different placements in my 4 years, and plus I did an honours year, which I also like to consider that as an extension of my final year placement. But, I got to experience what it would be like working as a HIM in, your traditional hospital health information service. I got to go to a research centre. I got to do data analytics. So, I'm really thankful that, the course offers the placements for students, because I've been on the other end working with students who have to source their own placements, and it's very stressful. I don't know if Anthony perhaps had to do that himself too, because I do some of the rehab counselling students now and help them source placements, and it's very stressful. So yeah, that's a good positive for him. You might not think it now, but it's very positive.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Steph. I might go around to Fiona now as well. Fiona, you probably maybe be one of the best prepared going into your OT degree, given that you kind of already experienced a bit about what an OT does, I guess, before you even went into it.
Yeah, that, and I'd studied at uni before, so I kind of knew that you had to put a lot of hard work in. When I went back this time, though, I had 3 kids and a mortgage. So it becomes really important that you don't fail, because you've got more to lose, I suppose. So, yeah, I knew that I had to go in and go pretty hard at it. And I find a lot of the mature age people do that and are quite committed. Studying at Bendigo, it was great for me because it was local. We were fortunate enough to walk into a brand new building, so that was nice. And I can't say enough about the cohort that I fell into. They were just such a wonderful sort of group, and no matter what age you were, we were all pretty close, and we all studied together at times, all sort of 30 of us. that was really good. As Steph was talking about placements, I was sort of reflecting back there and thought I was really lucky that because I did have kids, they really took that into consideration and kept me local. So because placements can be really hard to get in rural areas, some people were placed 3 hours away and had to find accommodation in those towns. For me, they kept me local and really considered my family circumstances, so that was great. And yeah, while they find the placements for you, there was also a little bit of leeway there of guiding them and what area you would like to go in as well. So that's really important, particularly for something like OT that's so broad. Look, I didn't go in with expectations of how I would come out the other end, because you can be, so many different things as an OT. I thought that I might stick with mental health, and I have, but I was still open-minded and thought, well, I might love prescribing wheelchairs, don't know. But I think studying at Bendigo, I knew the lecturers, they knew me, everybody knew each other's names. Yeah, I thought it was a great experience.
Great, thank you so much for that, Fiona. Megan, if you want to go next, how did you find that transition? I believe you came straight from school into the degree, is that right?
Yes, yep, straight from school into the degree. All my friends did the same thing, so none of us actually took a gap year. Expectations going into uni, thought it was going to be quite full on. I was a hard worker in high school, but I guess when you get to uni, it's a lot different because there's not someone almost kind of there all the time, teachers. But as the year went on, it was great because at Bendigo, you can get quite close with the lecturers and just easily an email away, and you form a really tight cohort. So ours was about 25, 30 people, and everyone becomes really close. You study together, go to class together all the time. So it's really, really good in terms of making friends and being on top of your studies as well. And yeah, so I found the class sizes really good and very interactive. We had lots of prac works for exercise physiology regarding exercise programs and lots of different placements. So third year placement was more kind of the athlete scenario. So I did under 16s athletes representing Victoria, and it was amazing, creating programs for them, exercising them. And then fourth year was also fantastic. Clinical work, 3 placements, 5 weeks. And we didn't source our own with that, but they were considerate of the locations and where you had accommodation as well. They wouldn't place you somewhere where you couldn't have any accommodation whatsoever. So they were really good like that.
Great, thank you so much, Megan. Kurt, did you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So my experience was pretty similar to Megan's. I came straight from school, and a little bit different to Megan in this sense, but I'm from Bendigo, so it was sort of an easy transition for me. I think I only knew one person from high school that I went into uni with, so it was sort of like starting school all over again, not knowing anybody. So I guess I didn't really go in with many expectations, but it was a brand new experience. So I think that's all just part of it. The experience itself of the course was similar to what Megan described. A range of different placements for the first 3 years, focusing on healthy people and athletes to prescribe exercise towards, and then in the 4th year, specialising that exercise prescription to people with more medical needs, more clinical needs. So we also did 3 placements in our final year, and they were a combination of rural and metro placements. So I did a couple in Melbourne. So I had to sort of essentially live in Melbourne for a couple of months, and then one in Ballarat as well, which is my rural one. So sort of was nice to learn in different settings and different towns, so you're not sort of stuck in Bendigo, as it were, for the whole time. So that was a really good experience as well. So and again, as Megan said, we had really small cohort groups as well. So all of my best friends essentially now are people that I studied with. So and that's right, you can talk to lecturers quite easily and build really good relationships both with the staff and people that you're studying with. So I think that's a massive perk of going to a smaller campus. And I remember talking to other friends and students that were studying bigger cohort degrees like education or studying in Melbourne, and they're doing law and stuff like that, and they could name one person in their course essentially, whereas I can name all 30. So I think that in itself was a really good, really big perk.
Great, thank you so much for that, Kirk. And Anthony, lucky last, I was going to say, especially for you, someone who maybe went into the course without a specific career outcome in mind, I'd love to hear more about how you found the experience.
Yeah, sure. So out of high school, I actually studied at RMIT for a semester and was doing a different course, and I really didn't enjoy it. And that's not about the university itself. It was more the situation of driving into the city. It was a big course, very kind of like you get lost in the crowd quite easily, and it just wasn't for me. So I took the second semester off and then decided to apply at La Trobe, and got into La Trobe, which was great, and started that common first year in the health sciences. And that was a bit daunting. It was, like Kirk said, starting afresh in high school where you don't know anyone. And because, in the common first year, there's a heap of people throughout all the different health courses and whatnot. And so that was a bit scary up first. And, with university, you don't really know what to expect in terms of classes and coursework and all that kind of stuff. And I was lucky in terms of in my first workshop group, just clicked with a few of the people that I was on the table with, and we were all doing the same. We were just doing the health sciences. We hadn't had a specific stream, or weren't doing physio or something like that. And we all just clicked and formed a close bond. And then that is the group that I went through to the rehab counselling course with, or the stream with, and it was really great. I can't speak highly enough about it in terms of, and I think everyone's almost mentioned this in terms of the cohort size. It was smaller. It felt like being back at school because you kind of with your mates, and the lecturers can give you that one-on-one attention should you need it. And so that was 3 years of that, and then the 2 years of the masters, which was a slightly different kind of format, but still smaller compared to most courses. And we had some more kind of international students in that and whatnot. And that was also really good. It was a bit more of like a kind of preparing for the workforce kind of course in that sense, because you're doing, a master's thesis on something, or, research by coursework and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's kind of more preparing you for once you're in that role. In the undergrad, we also did a placement, and as Steph said, I had to find it myself, but it was, La Trobe was very supportive, and I was extremely lucky in the way it kind of worked out for me. I ended up doing it at Carlton Footy Club, and I suppose the advantage of the course that I did is it's very niche course, and finding placements isn't as difficult as some other courses, which there's thousands of kids going through it at the same time, and finding placement can be difficult. So I think that's probably why La Trobe lets the rehab counselling students find their own, because it is niche and there's more available to you in that sense. So, but yeah, I had a great time, and couldn't recommend it more.
Great, thanks for that, Anthony. I think it's great that you and Steph both touched on still feeling like you had, a close group and a smaller class size, even being at the Bundoora campus, which, sometimes obviously people think that is our largest campus and is massive. So, people think that they might be just, 1 in a million and just a number, but I'm glad to hear that you both still feel like you kind of got that community sense and that community vibe that we go for at La Trobe, even though you're at the biggest campus. So I'm glad to hear that as well. I also love that you touched on, Anthony, that you just clicked with some people that you met on the first day. My closest friend from uni is a girl that was in my orientation tour group, just because I was like, thank God, I'm just going to make one friend here. So I love that it's kind of a similar thing happened for you as well. That's funny to think of. I thought we'd touch on as well a little bit kind of around the transition into the workforce. I know it's obviously sooner for some than others, about how long they've been a graduate as well. But I think for a lot of students attending today, they might be a little bit concerned, about how they're going to go from studying into that first job, how to go about finding that first job. I think it'd be great for you guys to touch on how that went for you. I think as well, it's important to note that the health industry is really, really resilient to economic downturn, which I think has been quite evident this year as well. For a lot of industries and a lot of areas that have been struggling, health is definitely not one of them. It's definitely a great time to be looking at a career in health, but I would love for all of you to touch on more about your personal experiences in that transition. So I might go around the other way if you wanted to go first this time, Anthony.
Sure thing. I have a very specific kind of analogy for all of this, and I use because I work in transitional health in the sort of jobs that I do, and everyone and I went through the same thing, and I still go through the same thing when I start a new job. But that transition, yes, it's difficult, but you've done it before. You've just done it in a different environment. So it's the same as going from primary school to high school. You're going from king and queen of the school to not knowing anyone, or being shit scared of, what's going on in the new environment and not knowing what to do. And then you go from high school to university. It's the same thing. And even if you've got people around you, yes, they can support you, but it is difficult, and you have to, kind of put yourself out there a little bit. And transitioning into the workforce is the exact same thing. But as Elise alluded to, in terms of, health is not only resilient, there's a lot of, given the nature of the jobs in health, that around surrounding care, and they're caring for you as you enter the workforce as well, and give you enough support to enter that workforce with confidence. And I don't care what anyone tells you, you get into the job and you feel like you don't know what you're doing. No matter how prepared you think you are, you don't know what you're going to be doing and what to do. Sometimes you're scared. But I suppose, as I was getting to, they're there to support you. Everyone's there to support you and know that you're a fresh starter. And I think one of the good things throughout health courses is the placement that you do, because you get a taste of what full-time work is. And especially for those, who will choose exercise science or like physio, OT, all those kind of, very hands-on courses, you do so much, and nursing and whatnot, you do so much placement that you know exactly what you're doing when you enter kind of that job space. It just takes a little bit of time to adapt to working full time compared to going from that uni sort of setting. So I know I kind of went both ways there, but yeah, I think you can just, it's stressful for everyone, but you've done it before is probably the big thing, just in a different environment. So yeah.
Very important comment. Thank you so much for that, Anthony. Kirk, did you want to touch on how you secured your role?
Yeah, so look, I'd agree with everything Anthony just said there. To be honest, it's they're all just different stages, and they're all different, and they're all a bit scary, but that's part of the process and something you're doing because you're interested in it anyway. So it's always scary, but it's really exciting at the same time. So I felt when I got to the end of my final year, I was just ready to go, really excited to get a job and stop studying and finally work with my own patients and get paid for it as well. So that was what I was excited for, and essentially just broadened my horizon a little bit and looked across Australia for jobs, because there's obviously more the more you go. And I had been in Bendigo for high school and uni, so I was happy to move somewhere that had a beach. So I essentially, just looked a bit broader and found a job in a private clinic in Queensland, and went there and essentially sort of applied my skills, but also learnt lots and lots and lots in my grad job as well. So I just sort of jumped into it, and as I said, learned a whole heap from it, and then eventually moved back to Bendigo and got a job in the hospital setting, where I'm still learning, probably 3 years out now. So you just learn different things from different settings that you're in, even though it's the same profession, the same job. The whole thing I see is a learning experience, and I really enjoy that, and obviously love what I do. So it's been a bit different, just moving between two different types of roles, a private clinic job versus a hospital job, but both really enjoyable and challenging in their own different ways, and really quite enjoyable.
Awesome. Love that you moved to Queensland for a job. It's such an interesting story as well. I think it's a good thing to touch on too as well. I know I've heard from other people that have done different areas of health that in other states, there might be a lot more demand, or maybe different types of roles that aren't available necessarily in Victoria. So it's really interesting to hear that you did go to another state to, look for a different opportunity. I think that's important for people to know that that's available, and, why not? If you can go and be in the sun for a bit, maybe near the beach, I'm sure we would all love that. And most of us living in Melbourne and Bendigo now.
Yeah, exactly right. So no, that was really good. And I thought at the same time, I've got all these other graduates that potentially are trying to apply for the same jobs. So the more jobs out there to apply for, the better chance I had of getting on. So it was just about again trying something new and sort of expanding everything. So
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. Megan, did you want to touch on how you secured your role, especially given that you're still semi-new to the industry, I guess, given you're 1 year out from graduating?
Yes. So transition was pretty quick. I was very fortunate it was a bit more boring compared to Kirk. He went to Queensland. I came back to my hometown. But it was very, very quick. So as soon as I got my degree, December, worked straight away in January, which had its positives and negatives. I wanted to get straight into work, but it was quite full on transitioning, especially in the clinic. There was only one other EP, so we only crossed paths for maybe an hour a day, and we still do. So it's a quick catch up. But over this past year, I'm learning so much. So it's really, really been good. And over COVID, a few job scares in terms of how much clients we would have, as no one was getting surgery. But no, I found the transition good, quite full on, but it was great to have support. So as you go through uni, you make contacts with your lecturers, your placement supervisors, and essentially you rely on them, and you can ask them questions and emails about clients as needed as well at work. So it's been good.
Great, thanks so much for that, Megan. Fiona, I was going to say you probably found the transition more than fine because you'd been there and done that, given that you'd already studied before. But I'd love to hear more about what made you, choose the role that you went into when you first finished your OT masters.
Yeah, so I was quite fortunate that I was working as an early intervention therapist, as a social worker. So I didn't have the pressure of I've got to find a job like the rest of the cohort was. But as I said before, I got a job where I did my last placement at Raphael Services, and that's where I still am today. And that was in the May after I graduated. And I would say that, placement's so important for that. If you find a placement that you think, yeah, this is me, I can see myself working here, then make those connections and look out for those jobs and keep in touch, because it's actually better and more favourable for the organisation as well, because they know you. They've taught you so many things on your 8-week, 12-week placement, whatever it might be, that you're not a risk when they interview you and employ you, because they kind of know you. We've just had a student finish with us, an OT student from La Trobe Bendigo, and I would employ her in a heartbeat. It's just that we don't have positions at the moment, but yeah, it's because we know her and she proved herself on placement. So yeah, it's a definite plus.
Great, thank you so much, Fiona. I think that's a really important point as well. I do know a lot of students, or I've heard of students in the past, getting building connections through their placements and then eventually being either offered a job at the end of their placement or maybe further down the track. So yeah, I think it's a great point to touch on. Some people I think sometimes can see placement as like this onerous thing. It's like, I've got to do this many hours and go to this many places. But at the end of the day, you're getting really valuable experience and building connections that are not necessarily available to people from different degrees or from different types of areas. So I'm really glad you touched on that. So thank you. And Steph, lucky last.
Okay, yeah, so probably like Fiona, the transition to work wasn't that different for me, because I had worked full-time for a while, then cut down to part-time to do the course and everything. So how I got, I guess, my job at the university was making those connections, like, we all talked about with, your placement supervisors, with your lecturers at university. So when I did my honours year, so the extra honours year, I got really close with my supervisor, who was also the discipline lead of, the health information management course. And she always told me that when I finished up honours, she wanted to keep me on for a couple of days a week, to teach 1 or 2 classes. So I said, yeah, that's fine. So when I was doing honours, I proactively went and got a HIM role in, working in mental health service. So I can kind of get that, real world experience as well. And I knew that going forward, I wanted to get into that research sort of academic role. But I knew it was also important to have that HIM experience behind me. And, it was funny. So, finished the honours degree, graduate, was only supposed to work at the university 2 days a week. And then literally 2 weeks before semester started, I got offered a full-time role. So I kind of had to, decide whether I wanted to work at the university as a full-time academic or, do everything part-time. So, that's why I was saying networking is very important, and who you know and the relationships you build, and especially using that experience from placement, because that first role that I got in mental health, I got through my first placement as well, because it was in the same health service, but just in a different department. And, I made a good impression that they were able to give me a really good reference for that job. So just, keep networking is very important.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Steph. Letting anyone know who's watching today, you will all get an email with the recording as well. So don't worry about taking notes or anything like that. You can watch back at any time. I know we've gone a little bit over, but I do have one last really quick question for everyone. And that is, what advice would you give to your younger self about to go into your first year of uni? So one quick piece of advice to wrap up for today. Steph, you can go first on this one.
Oh, so some advice. I think it's just probably what I've said earlier. Just put in a lot of effort. Don't be afraid to try new things and to, join different clubs and, take electives if you have an opportunity to do, something in a different discipline. I took some public health electives, which are a little bit different, and just, make friends and have fun. I guess just make the most of it, because you really will enjoy, the couple of years that you are at uni.
I love that. Thanks, Steph. Fiona, advice for your younger self or a younger person going into uni?
Yeah, I would say don't feel like you're trapped in a decision. So if you're not quite sure what you want to do, there's so many ways that you can change your mind, defer. The boys have talked about doing a common year health, and then sort of deciding what they want to do. So yeah, just make a choice and don't feel locked in.
Great, thanks for that, Fiona. I think that's a great point to touch on as well, because it can be a bit overwhelming. We have heaps and heaps of different health courses at La Trobe, and maybe the decision might be a bit overwhelming for some, but yeah, that's really important to know that, you can definitely change your mind and spot between courses so you don't ever feel too boxed in. Megan, did you want to go next?
Yeah, well, I feel like Stephanie and Fiona have covered everything pretty much I was going to say. So I might take a bit of a different way. Something that I guess regret and wish I did is that if you play sport or you have a passion of craft or just anything, continue that. So just because you transition into uni doesn't mean you can't join a sport club. There's lots of activities there at the uni, and they can show you around the town essentially and what they have to offer as well. So one thing I do regret is not continuing sport in the first year. I picked it up in the second year of uni, but yeah, so I would continue whatever passion that you have.
Very important point. Thanks, Megan. Kirk?
Yeah, I think everyone's made some really good points. I think just first thing I'd say is embrace it and enjoy it. It's always going to be a challenge because it's something new, but I think that's part of life. I think everything new is a bit scary. So I think you've just got to remember it's probably as scary for everyone else. So you're all in the same boat. And I think there's probably a bit of bonus on students going into uni to think of it, as this linear sort of, you start first year, work your way through, finish, graduate, get a job, but it looks different for everyone. And as some of the other guys mentioned, you might start something, stop something, take a bit of time off, think about it. It's going to look different for anybody. So just take it as it comes and enjoy the experience while you're there, I think.
Great, I love that. And over to Anthony for our last piece of wisdom.
Not sure how wise this will be. So my bit of advice, I'm quite a reserved person, always have been and probably always will be, but if you get the chance, well, when you get the chance, I should say, just put yourself out there, speak to people. You know, if I didn't speak to the people who were on that table in that first workshop, then I probably wouldn't have made it through the degree. So if you are a quiet and reserved person, which I'm sure there's quite a lot out there, just put yourself out there for a little bit, just have a conversation with someone, you know, can change the whole way things go for you. And just to add on to a few things, if you get the chance to do an exchange at some point throughout your uni degree, do it. Just do it. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Very important. Hopefully by the time all of the students that are listening today are in their second or third year, we will hopefully all be good to go overseas again. Let's pray for that. But thank you so much to all of our panelists today. I'm sure the future students all really appreciated your words of wisdom today. And thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight to watch as well. I'll let everyone go back and get started on their dinner, but thank you so much to everyone. And hopefully we see you all at La Trobe soon. Bye everyone. Thank you.